Here's the next question: are you guys your own target market? No. Who here is their target market? Oh, honesty. I love this, because this would be the questions. Raise of hands. How many people hire a gardener to take care of your lawn and yard?
Oh, is that great? Really?
Don't have time anymore.
Way to go. Because that's a good use of time. He can make $100 an hour out there cleaning a carpet. Let's let somebody come mow the lawn, especially if you don't like it.
I don't like it.
Yeah. Do you pay a company to wash your home windows? How many people do that? Okay. Couple? All right. Do you pay to have your car detailed? Your kind of lifestyle. That a way to go, Jim. And then the other one is, would you pay your rates to pay somebody to come and clean your carpets? Okay. So you're not your clientele. So everybody agreed to that. But when you are designing your marketing pieces, who decides what that should look like? Who? That's Steve Marks. Well, there you go. Okay. But do you do it?
Right.
Because if you're designing your own marketing and you are not the target market, do you know how they think and what they value? Okay, here's another little bit of information here. And this is just taken kind of from the last 30 years of each year in September. It's October, actually. CleanFacts magazine has a benchmark survey that they do. And we get a lot of these numbers, but these are also very similar to all home service companies. But what we found is for every 20 homes done, cleaned each year, 17 of those is one of those repeat referral clients, and only 3 are shoppers. Okay, now if you think about the numbers I showed you earlier, what was that percentage of the population that had their carpets cleaned between 1 to 9 times during their life? 30%. Well, how can this be like that different? Because if you only have your carpets cleaned 2 times, how often are you going to show up to be counted for having your carpets cleaned? And also what gets included in here is those repeat referrals. They're companies that they had working for them last year. Either they're not happy with them or those businesses went out of business, and those people are thrown out into the market and now have to be looking for somebody to replace it. So if you're really thinking about it, only 10% of the population we're looking for a target, but that 10% makes up 85% of the money made every year. So we want to focus attention on, can we get those people?
Hey, Steve.
Yeah.
What was that last statement before you went on to that? You're talking about the value. You're kind of asking a question about the values that the higher end clients have. You're going to get to that in a minute.
We're going to talk about how they think.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Because you want to know, for those of you who have been my clients, is how I designed the ads is because I figured out what it was that they wanted. And once you figure out what it is, you should be able to design your own ads. But if you're thinking just like, well, what would be valuable to me? And most people, once your prices get over, who was that? I think it was Ken, came to my house to clean my carpets one time. And the neighbors said, Steve, or they were talking to my wife, and they go, Sue, you had a different company. That was Bob Kong. I forget which one it was. But you had a different company coming to clean your carpets. And so my wife says, well, we can't afford Steve. So it's kind of like, yeah, okay. Anyway, once you understand what those people want, then you design everything so it looks appropriate and it appeals to them, because otherwise what's happening to the poor consumers is they're looking out there and all they see are budget companies, and they want to pay more if they can get a good value for it. So we will cover that. Where do consumers look for their services? 50% already know, again, this is directly from the benchmark survey from CleanFacts, 50% already know who they're going to use because they're going to use the same company that they used last time. Now, those people are not necessarily loyal to that company, but they've had enough bad experiences until they hear a real good referral from somebody. They're going to stay with the lesser known evil than go out into the market looking for another company. But 50% already know who they're going to use. 25% are going to seek out a referral from a friend, professional, from a social review site. And that leaves 25% who will turn to some form of advertising. So that means there's still some good people looking at ads. So if you can design one well, you might snag them if you realize you do need to look different than the rest of the people. 25% will look to advertising. And what we're looking to do is once you get clients, the goal, because of those numbers I just showed you, of 100 times difference, we want to focus in on repeat and referrals. And the way you do that is to stay in touch with the customers you have. If you do not stay in touch, if you stop sending out your newsletters and your reminder cards, your business will start to go down. Here are those stages that a business must go through, like shifting the gears on a car. The first one is fill your schedule. And you're going to use advertising to do this. Now, there's only about 20 to 30 familiar sources for every home service industry for advertising. That's all. So what you should do, if somebody was a brand new business, we're going to say, what do we need to get from a return on investment for our advertising? And it should fall somewhere between 1.5 to 2, that number, to 1. So in other words, if it's 1.5 to 1, that means you pay $1 in advertising, you get $1.50 worth of work. For a startup business, that is the bottom line that you can accept. If you can get that, you accept it until you can do better than that. And what you're going to do is you're going to brainstorm and say, what are all the sources of advertising that I can do? And you're going to do about 3 or 4 at a time, and you're going to test them. The nice thing is, in this day, a lot of our advertising is digital as opposed to print. So you can get the results of an ad in a matter of days. So if you wanted to find out, will pay per click pay off for me? Can I get my 1.5 to 1 return for pay per click? You only have to run that ad for 2 days. And you put a dollar amount on it, you hit it or don't hit it, because it doesn't matter. It's electronics. People are seeing it in the instant and it's gone. So there's no lingering power like print advertising has. So anything that's digital, you can determine in a matter of days or in a very short period of time, is that worth you pursuing? And it's a mathematical thing. Did I get my 1.5 to 1 return? If you do, you keep doing it until you fill up and find something better to replace it with. Does that make sense? That's pretty heavy if you stop and think about it. But that's, so what you do 4 at a time until, so they're all coming. What people do in the old days, you used to get in business in April. And Yellow Pages ran their ads in the fall. And so I'm going to struggle, but I'm going to get in the Yellow Pages. And then, so you apply for it in the fall, but the book doesn't come out until February. So now we're almost waited a year, and then you find out that it's a horrible return. And meanwhile, every month you had to make your payment, you had to pay for your rent, you had to eat, you had to feed the kids. All these expenses, this all time got gobbled up. And businesses go out of business. And the next one comes in, and it's this rotation because they don't know how to do it quickly. So if you're starting a business, you say, I'm going to do 4. You get them up, you measure them. Which ones worked? You keep those going. You throw the other way, you go to the next 4. Test those, and you should be fully booked within 2 months' time. And then it's a matter of grooming it, saying, what do I need to shift into? The next thing we want to shift into is eliminating the advertising. So you have to wean yourself off of needing advertising. So now you have to start getting referrals. And after a few months, some of those people will start to repeat. You might have somebody who repeats regularly. Yeah, we got a good one. Let's keep that person. But they'll start referring you, and then you start not needing advertising as much. If you do this correctly, within about 1.5 to 2 years, you can transform a advertising-dependent company almost completely over to a referral and repeat business. But don't wait a year for Yellow Pages to give you an opportunity. If you're waiting, that's what's going to kill off and use up all of your investment money. So once you get your business converted over to where you're eliminating the advertising, this next one actually is kind of where they overlap, is you want to expand. So if you're going to hire a helper, you want to hire a helper when you're still advertising or found some good sources of advertising. If you want to have multiple trucks, you expand when your prices are still reasonable and you're offering introductory offers, all right? Because you want to fill up those. But as soon as your business gets to a point where you go, this is comfortable, and you just want a nice steady rate from there, then we're going to then go to the next point, is we're going to raise our prices a bit. And then the next step will be is that we will groom the clientele. And so when you have more work than you can handle, we're going to raise the prices, and you're going to lose some people. And then that you control that. You should know who will drop off if you raise your prices. And you should be offering such a good value as all the people who can afford it will stay loyal to you. All right? So that's the process that a new business would go through. If you jump the gun and you raise your prices before you're fully booked, you have just sealed your fate. Because the only way you can then get back into growing is to cut your prices seriously when you're advertising. Okay, so we're kind of at the halfway point. I've given you a lot of numbers and stuff. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Steve, I think a lot of guys do raise their prices prior to when they should.
Well, I can't tell you how many seminars I've been into, and the person will get up there and say, everybody raise your price 20%. You can't do that. If you're advertising, you can't do that. You're not competitive anymore.
So how far should somebody be booked out before they raise their prices? A good week, 2 weeks?
I would say when you're booking out during your regular time, not the peak holiday time, but in midsummer, fall, if you're booked out 3 weeks in advance on a pretty consistent basis, then we can start looking at that. And I would not necessarily, you don't have to raise your prices for everybody. What I would do is, in all my clients, we talked about how you rate your clients, A, B, and C, if you're keeping it simple, is you would raise your prices on your C clients first. Then your B clients, and the A clients would be the very last ones you would raise it. But when you raise it for them, you said, you're my favorite clients, you're my best clients. We've had a higher price for the last 2 years, and we're now just getting around that we have to bring you up, but we intentionally kept you at the preferred rate. If I were to say out of this, there's the 2 points that I hope everybody has a clear understanding of, is how much more valuable a repeating client is. And when some of you guys are at the point where you're thinking about selling your business, and people, when I say what a good, solid business is worth, people are in shock. How is it worth that? Because it has the filled schedule with those people who are worth 100 times more than that other company is selling their business for. So part of selling a good quality clientele is helping them understand how valuable what you have is. Yeah.
So what should be like my repeat rate? Like if it's 70%, kind of low, or I mean, it looks good to me. But what ideally what should be? What was your repeat rate? What's a good?
Well, it's not going to be 100%.
Right.
Because people die. I had a couple of years where it's just like my clientele was dying off. It was an aging clientele, and they were dying and downsizing. Their kids had gone off and gotten married. They didn't need a 5-bedroom Saratoga house. They moved to some nice condo that was a fraction of the size. It was horrible time. Or they left the area. So you're going to have attrition inevitably. No, it doesn't matter how good you are. But you should have, kind of like if I were to look at then at the average, is I'd be saying you want to shoot for about 80% of your clientele every year as being repeat. And then you should have 30% of referrals coming in, new customers coming in. So it would make it that you have about a 10% growth over the year. So if you have a good reputation, you should not only make up for that attrition, but about an additional 10%, and you have a nice steady growth from there on out.
80%.
Yeah, shoot for 80%. If you had somewhere 70 to 80%, you're doing pretty well. If you drop below that, then something's wrong. Your prices are too high. Something is causing them. Unless it's just they got old. Let's take a break for about 15 minutes and we'll come into the next part that we'll cover will be how do you look to the consumer? What do we do to convey that we want somebody who's willing to pay money? And that's what we'll show you some examples and go through lots of things that you can do.
Thanks.